in 2015, I wrote a groundbreaking grant, and the U.S. Embassy awarded us some money to provide cultural appropriate training within law enforcement. So the training that I implemented is called Courageous Conversations About Race, and it's based on a U.S. model that was developed by a man called Glenn Singleton. And so I had about 35 different organizations, mainly within law enforcement. So that's Western Australian Police, Australian Federal Police, Corrective Services, Immigration and Border Protection. And we actually looked at discrimination in the workplace, particularly in relation to the incarceration rates of Aboriginal youth and also African youth. So we're starting to see a lot of engagement with the legal community amongst African young people, and it's not so much in a good way. And so it was just important to address unconscious bias within those agencies where they might have a proficiency to, I guess, interact with Africans in a not so complimentary manner. 5 of those agencies have undergone 6 months of intense training where we looked at their policies, so what training they had within their organizations and how can they implement it. I think the biggest learning for all of them was to realize that they all had unconscious bias. So when you have police officers and members of law enforcement saying, actually, our views when we deal with African youth or even Aboriginal youth is because we suspect or assume that they're likely to do bad things in inverted commas, then that's a starting point. So having them actually identify and say, we probably haven't been conducting ourselves the way that we can and it hasn't been fair or equitable is a big step. So we were able to guide them through the process, look at their cultural awareness training that they offered to new recruits, and also introduce just an inclusive culture. So what's important about, making sure that how they communicate with other agencies is appropriate, how they communicate with individuals. Because the reality is Australia is not white Australia anymore. It's a multicultural Australia. And so it's very imperative that these organizations that provide vital services are able to treat everybody in a just and fair manner.
In Africa, there is a saying, spare the rod and spoil the child. It was written in the Bible as well. For me growing up and for my mates growing up, our parents use the rod on us whenever we misbehave. So they use the cane to whip us whenever we do anything wrong, and the rod, the whip, the cane is used to direct us in the right path. Because when you misbehave, your dad or your mom whips your behind and tell you never to do it again. And when you know that you're going to be whipped if you do something wrong, you will never want to go back doing something wrong. You will never do something wrong because you don't want your behind to be whipped.
The main concerns that come to our attention is around domestic violence and also child discipline and things relating to parenting styles. And we acknowledge and understand that there's different child rearing practices, but when they're harsh on a child, when there's an injury, a child is harmed in any particular way, then we have a role to look at what's happening, see what we can do to support. And every child deserves a safe, nurturing home, and the best we can do is help parents be the best possible parents they can be for their own children.
For your caring and for the worry, Mama. Thank you for your love, Mama, for the meeting, Mama. Thank you for your love and for the care. I was the first female president of African community here. I thought I basically have probably 4 degrees. My bachelor's degree was in social sciences with a double major in politics and sociology. And then I wanted to specialize, so that's how I went from Curtin Uni to Notre Dame to do counseling, and I did grad dip in counseling, practiced for about 2 years, went back to do my master's,
Before that, did the family dispute resolution practice. So I'm one of the accredited mediators. And so, yes, I finished my counseling, and mainly I'm a narrative therapist. I think with the African youth, probably just like their parents, depends on how long they have been here. There is culture shock that everyone who maybe comes here or changes countries, I think. And during those sensitive times, often it is 2 years, within 2 years of one being here. So it is absolutely important if the parents could let them go and visit Africa during that time. It's about the best cure and sort of awakening thing for them, because they would be embedded here on being sensitive about the way things are done here, the fast pace in which things are done here, the lack of parenting support, probably to listen to them, different parenting skills, as I said. So if the parents could really make note of the fact that within around 2 years they suffer from culture shock and they need to sort of take them on a bit of a holiday, that is one. Number two, tutoring program for children is mandatory. A lot of them really are not coping just because they are not coping at school, and then they get embarrassed and their friends begin maybe probably to laugh at them because of that. But when they are catching up with their studies, you find they are happy.
Sweet mother, thank you for your love and for the money. Mama, thank you for your caring and for the worry. Mama, thank you for your love.